Hi, welcome back to the Wisdom of Your Soul. I'm so glad you're here. It's been a little while. I took off for the holidays, so I hope everyone had a wonderful, beautiful holiday and, really just made the best of them. It was definitely a challenging holiday season for many people, not being able to gather the way we normally gather with all of our family, but it does seem like the end is in sight. And that maybe we'll be able to be a little bit more freer again. But that does bring me to what I wanted to talk about today, what kind of was just kind of ruminating in my own mind lately, and what I've been learning. And that's the best part about, I think, being on a spiritual journey and not on a mind journey, is that you really you learn so much. You learn something new every day. When we have a very fixed mind and a very closed mind, and we think we know everything, that's when we're in danger, because we can't let anything seep in, and we can't let our spirit in. We can't let in, just kind of the beauty of life and the wonder of life, getting back to those basics if we're always so, right in our thinking. I'm right, you're wrong, and that's it. So we want to practice having an open mind. And when we're with the ego wants us to keep very, very close-minded, because then the ego is in control. When we move out of the ego, we realize we do have the spirit that lives within us, our soul. And when we connect to that, it's a whole different story. And since I've had my experience of connecting to spirit, soul, whatever you want to call it, I have learned and continue to learn so much. And I always seek people that are kind of on the same path, learning the same things, connecting in similar ways, because it's just so validating for me. It almost gives me permission to talk about the things that I do feel when I'm more connected to spirit as opposed to connected to the ego. It's such a contrast to what the ego says that sometimes it makes me nervous to talk about, because I don't want people to, be upset, I guess. I don't want people to feel like they're somehow living in a wrong way. And that is never the case, because when you go into your spirit and your soul, it is always saying whatever you're doing is fine and is right and is perfect for right now. So hearing that from my spirit and my soul gives me the courage to talk about what I've learned and continue to learn, and will always learn, and learn from other people. And I will always tell you who I'm listening to and who I'm resonating with and who I'm not. And I think that's also helpful, because like minds like minds, and like journeyers like journeyers. So probably not grammatically correct, but you get the point. So if you resonate with what I'm saying, that means you're on that similar journey of trying to soothe the ego, understand the ego, move away from the ego, not take the ego so seriously. And it is quite a journey. It has taken me, quite a while to get my ego in a place where it doesn't affect me as much. And that is going into more my spirit soul energy, because it does say usually the direct opposite of what my ego is saying. So if my ego is saying that's bad, spirit is saying there's always a reason for it. If my ego is saying, you're not good enough, my spirit is saying you're perfect as is. When my ego says you have nothing to share, my spirit says you have everything to share. So wow, that's like direct contrast. And how do you kind of live in a world with that kind of direct contrast? And that's been a little bit of a struggle for me, because knowing that people are so much better and have so much more to learn about themselves, when they're getting stuck in the ego, it has been hard. It's been really difficult. It is very painful for me to be in my own ego. And, being in my own ego has caused so many problems, so many relationship failures, and just a host of problems in my life. And I can see that very clearly now. And so that is my gift, to try to help other people get on this path so that you can live a life that that has more freedom, and more excitement, and brings you back to you, and brings you back to your feelings, and brings you back to your thoughts in a way that you don't get controlled by them. That your every move is not controlled by what the ego is telling you. So, the ego wants us to try to control our lives. And so if I'm living out of trying to control my life, I'm not really doing the things that I want to do out of fear. So if the ego says, don't do YouTube videos because you don't have anything good to say, out of that fear, I would stop, and then I would, not give myself that opportunity to explore that and to see if that's something that I want to do and to express my soul and my thoughts in this way. And that would be a shame for me, So that's one example of letting the ego control you. So the more you're in your spirit and you hear this other voice, and you hear this voice of support and love and like the best therapist ever, you're going to always get that encouragement to let hurtful thoughts go. Or, your spirit, your soul will challenge those thoughts for you and say, well, how do you know that to be true? How do you know that you have absolutely nothing worthwhile to say today? How do you know that? You're not there, you're not talking, you don't know. So that's kind of what it feels like when we live more in our spirit. And more people do live in their spirit, and you can tell because they're not living out so much of their ego. But it's tricky. It's really tricky. I always have to check with myself. Am I wanting to do something because I think my ego says I should be doing it? Or am I doing it because I really, truly want to do it? And because I truly enjoy doing it? What is my end game? So you want to ask yourself that. Why am I doing what I'm doing? And the beautiful thing about spirit is that it helps you to explore you. And to have you ask those hard questions, like, why do I do what I do? What is important to me? What are the most important things to me in my life? And am I including that in my day daily? Am I giving myself enough time and attention? Or am I just so focused on controlling the bad in my life that I'm not living? So when we ask ourselves these questions, we can really see what's happening within ourselves. And it's really helpful because then you give your spirit a chance to talk. Give your spirit a chance to come in and soothe some of these misconceptions. So the biggest thing that I have noticed since I've had this shift, this awakening, was that my whole perspective has changed. I don't believe in what the world says fully. I live in this world and I adhere to all the rules of this world, and I have the same fears and beliefs that everybody else has, but my perspective of it is much more lighthearted, because I know from my spirit side that it's temporary, that we're on loan, that the body that I have is borrowed. It's almost like my leased car, that at the end of 3 years, I give my car back, and at the end of my lifetime, I give my body back. But that does not mean that I cease to exist. And I feel that to be true. I feel the truth in that. So the fear of the ego, when the ego thinks that, oh my goodness, I'm going to die someday, it's a terrifying, terrifying thought when you're in the ego. It's so scary to think that for anybody, and especially now with so many people passing from COVID and other illnesses. And, it's a very difficult, fearful time for a lot of people. But if we just think about it in those simple terms, that we're here for a period of time and then we're back in spirit, which is a place of love. Which is a place of, all the things that I feel when I feel my spirit here. I can't imagine that it's not, because what I hear when I'm connected to my spirit or soul is just, the most beautiful voices, choirs of angels, it's just the most beautiful thing. So I can't even imagine it not being like that. I think, there's this new Netflix series out called Surviving Death, and I would highly recommend it. Highly recommend it. Because one of the first series is on near-death experiences. And for some reason, I could really relate to those near-death experiences because people come back so changed. They come back with a perspective shift again. They come back feeling different. They come back knowing that there's more. A lot of times they come back without a fear of death. They come back knowing this is temporary and that we're here to learn and have fun and make the best of it and to explore ourselves and to just see where we want to go with that. And it's just an amazing series. I would highly recommend that because it can help you, bring you to your spirit when you watch shows like that. It can help you show you that, we do go on and we do survive death. And the reason why that helps is that then that helps us to let go of the control of life. When we know that we have a soft place to fall, so to speak, when we do pass on, when we know it's going to be okay, when we know we're going to a better place, then we can enjoy the sweetness of life, because then we can understand, yes, that we will pass on someday, but that, until then, I'm going to make this the best possible life ever. I'm just going to try to really enjoy myself. I'm going to accept my thoughts and feelings. I'm not going to always take them to heart if they're too hurtful, and I will consult with spirit and my soul on the things that are hurting me. I will consult and ask for help, get that second opinion. And once I do that, I really realize that there's no need for control. There's no need to control your mind when you don't take your mind that seriously. There's no need to control your life because whatever time you have, and that when it ends, it's like the lease that you'll be hand in your car, and then you'll get a new model if you want and come back, or whatever happens when we pass on. I'm not 100% sure, but I do know from listening to those near-death experiences, there's something in those experiences when I watch them that I really, really can connect to and resonate with. So for me, I do believe that to be true. And then in that series, they talk a lot about mediums. And I know since I've had my shift, I have been able to connect to people that have passed on, and that has also been an amazing experience for me because it shows me the continuity of life again. And I prove it to myself every time I connect to a spirit. And for a therapist, that sounds crazy. Like I never thought in my wildest imagination that I would be able to connect to spirits and angels and, all kinds of support in the unseen world, But I think that they come in to help us. They come in to help us to remind us of who we really are. They come in to help us to lighten up and enjoy our lives and to have fun. That's what spirit does for us. So, it is something for us to learn to connect to more and more. It just helps us so much in our lives. So watch that series and let me know what you think of it. I think it's an incredible series. I watched it all in one night. Some episodes are not easy to watch because some of the people have lost children. So it is really, really upsetting, and it makes no sense as to why some people have to leave so early. But from what I can feel from spirit, from my soul, is that, some people just hand in their car earlier, and there is a reason, and there is some sense behind it all. I don't know what it is, but I think that's probably the hardest thing to go through is the loss of a child. So I don't know how that could be good in any sense, but I do know from the world of spirit that it's not bad, and it's not a punishment, and it's something that we all have to deal with. So again, if we trust spirit, if we trust that we are spirit, and if we trust that we go back to that, then we can move out of this controlling ego mind easier. And then you can kind of watch, how much of my day am I doing to placate my ego? So if my ego comes in and says, oh, you should be afraid of that, and then I try to control a situation because I'm fearful, I can try, but it's not going to control the situation, and it's not going to work, and it doesn't work. So when we live in our imagination, or when our ego brings these terrible things into our mind, like, oh, don't forget this could happen, this bad thing could happen, don't forget, there really isn't a lot we can do. So we're better off coming out of that imagination of that horrible situation and coming into the reality that everything is fine right now and everything is safe. And as things happen that might be difficult, that we're better off dealing with it one thing at a time, and with the support of your spirit and your soul. If you have this guide sitting next to you, if you have this sense with you all the time, then no matter what you have to go through, you're going to be comforted. No matter what life experience that you have to deal with, and there are so many that feel difficult, you're going to have that support. So try to just see yourself that way. See that, yes, I am having this life, and I have this ego that kind of drives me crazy, this inner critic, and then I also have the spirit that lives within me, and let me give that voice a chance to talk to me, so I can get to know myself better, and let me not be so closed-minded. If I didn't have an open mind, I would never be able to learn all the things that I'm learning. And for me, I love to learn, and that is one of the gifts that my soul gives me, this thirst and this thirst for knowledge and understanding, and how to help people soothe the ego, because my ego had been driving me crazy for so many years. And now that I've gotten to a point where I can just kind of smile at my ego and move out of it quicker. It's not to say that some of the things that comes into my mind doesn't get me, but that I then just go into that spirit, soul, opinion and voice, and that will always give me a completely different perspective on things. And that's what we want. So keeping it really, really simple, when we wake up, we have to think about, well, what is the most important thing for today? What is the most important thing for my human life today? I want to have this realization that I have this spirit which is filled with wisdom and knowledge and help, and I just want to have a good day, So it's always our choice and in our control. So we know what's out of our control, but we know what's in our control is so much more important. So to focus on what we can do is so much more important than what we can't do. So if we wake up and we direct our mind to the only thing that I really want for today is to have fun, smile a lot, enjoy the people in my life, connect with the people in my life, do the work that I love to do, eat the foods that feel the best in my body, do the things that everything that I do, if I sit back after doing it and ask myself, well, how did that feel? If that energizes you, then that is the road to a really happy day. If I continue to do things that take my energy away, and stay in thoughts that are horrible, and which leads me to foods that might be horrible, which leads me to more thoughts that are horrible, if that's the path I am for that day, it is not going to be a good day. It's not going to be a good day. So it's within our control to direct our mind to keep a very simple goal for the day, which is today's going to be a good day no matter what. And when you have that, when things don't go your way, you handle it better. You handle it much, much better. So when we put our control where it really works, doing the things you love to do, getting the things that you love to do done, then you feel really good, and that's energizing, and it's going to give you more and more energy, and it's not going to be depleting. So we want to control what we can and get out of the business of living in our imagination, which is fears of the future or regrets of the past. So we don't want to live in non-reality. The reality of my life today is that it's really good, but that's my definition of really good. Everybody has their own definition of really good. Some people feel like they won't be happy unless they make millions of dollars. So if that's their definition of a really good life and they don't have millions of dollars, where does that leave them? So my definition is, and Spirit's definition is, wherever I am, that's really good, and I'm really successful. Wherever I am, I'm here, and that's my definition of success, you know? So you want to ask yourself, well, what is your definition of success for yourself? And do you want to revise it? If it's something so in the future and something you can't grasp and something that might make you feel this level of depression and disappointment if you can't get to it, you might want to change it so that you energize yourself instead of depleting yourself. So, you know, again, is in Spirit is that law of attraction, and we close the doors and the egos close the doors. So the more I open doors up for myself and the more I realize I don't really know a lot, the more I learn. The more I just let myself be in my life and just not pay too much attention to the ego, the happier I am, and the easier it is to choose to just have a happy day, no matter what. So that is, that is the task. So I hope that this helps you, reach back into your spirit, into your soul, so that you can feel this support, this wisdom, this knowledge, this shift in your perception, because you want it shifted. If you're feeling angry a lot, or if you're feeling disappointed a lot, or having mostly more bad feelings than good feelings, then you're believing your ego and you're very far from your spirit. And that you don't want for yourself. You want to be really connected to your spirit, and that does not mean that bad things, aren't going to happen, or things that you don't prefer are not going to happen. It just means you have a support system with you to help you deal and understand your life better, and to help you deal and understand yourself, and then to just help you to see the many dimensions of you instead of it being just so one-sided. That's the biggest thing. So we want to take control where we can take control, and that is moving out of the imagination. And, once we do that, we're much better off, because the imagination hasn't happened. So we're actually living in an altered sense of reality most of the time. I'll say that to my clients all the time. You're living in an altered state of reality when you're living in the fears of the future, because that's not happening right now. So what reality are you living in and preparing for and using your energy for? We want to stay in the present and use our energy for the present, not the future imagination, because that might never happen. It might happen, but it might not happen. So that's really important for all of us to kind of understand. And again, a lot of this is so much easier when you're just more connected yourself. You won't have to be convinced of anything, and you will naturally have this compassion for yourself. You will naturally have the sense of I'm worthy and I'm good no matter what, and no matter what life is bringing to me. It doesn't define me. A lot of people, will say to me they just can't be nice to themselves. And that's just the ego. You're just taking the ego very seriously, and you're living your life towards that ego mind. And really, that's what we're taught here. We're taught to do that. So it's nobody's fault that we do that. And I've spent many years in my ego. So that you don't want to blame yourself for that. But if you're listening to this or other people, you're looking for a way out too. You're looking for a way to soothe the ego and get out of it, and get to know your soul and spirit better. That's what you're trying to do. And just stay on that mission, because it's well worth it. You're worth it. And, that connection, that blending of spirit and ego is probably the most beautiful experience you can have here. And then when we pass on, we'll have a different experience. But the blending of it here is really such a life enhancer in a way that you can't even imagine until you're there. So enhance your life by trying to remember who you really are and connect to who you really are. You're more than this human person. You have a spirit within you that has a lot to say to you. And all it has to say is good things. So if you're hearing bad things, again, you have connected to the ego. If you feel like you connect to spirits and the spirits are telling you bad things, you have not connected to a spirit. You have connected to your ego. If you feel you've connected to an angel and the angel is telling you bad things, you have connected to your ego, because there's nothing other than support and love to the spirits and angels and people. That's all you feel. That will be all you feel. And, that's a beautiful experience, Highly recommend it. Just start out 5 minutes a day doing a little meditation. Continuing to listen to people that are out of the box, that are moving away from their egos. Take what you like from them and leave the rest, but don't throw them out. Help your mind to expand. That includes your spirit. And then you'll be able to control your life in a way that's so, so magical. That's the way we want to control our lives. So I hope that helps. Have a beautiful day. Like I said, it is only in our control to decide today. Is today going to be good, or is today going to be torturous? So since I'm here today and I'm live and I'm with you, I'm going to decide to have a fun, good day. I'm going to try to laugh, and I'm going to do things that I love to do, and I'm going to try to eat foods that feel good in my body. And that's about it for today. And that is, for me, the definition of success. So what is your definition of success, and what can you really control? So have a great one, and we'll talk soon.